By the last day of Beast, 71 cadets had dropped out. Grit turned out to be an astoundingly reliable predictor of who made it through and who did not. The next year, I returned to West Point to run the same study. This time, 62 cadets dropped out of Beast, and again, Grit predicted who would stay. In contrast, stayers and leavers had indistinguishable whole candidate scores. I looked a little closer at the individual components that make up the score. Again, no differences. So, what matters for making it through Beast? Not your SAT scores, not your high school rank, not your leadership experience, not your athletic ability, not your whole candidate score. What matters is grit. Does grit matter beyond West Point? To find out, I looked for other situations so challenging that a lot of people drop out. I wanted to know whether it was just the rigors of Beast that demanded grit, or whether, in general, grit helped people stick to their commitments. The next arena where I tested grit's power was sales, a profession in which daily, if not hourly, rejection is par for the course. I asked hundreds of men and women employed at the same vacation timeshare company to answer a battery of personality questionnaires, including the grit scale. 6 months later, I revisited the company, by which time 55% of the salespeople were gone. Grit predicted who stayed and who left. Moreover, no other commonly measured personality trait, including extroversion, emotional stability, and conscientiousness, was as effective as grit in predicting job retention. Around the same time, I received a call from the Chicago Public Schools. Like the psychologists at West Point, researchers there were eager to learn more about the students who would successfully earn their high school diplomas. That spring, thousands of high school juniors completed an abbreviated grit scale, along with a battery of other questionnaires. More than a year later, 12% of those students failed to graduate. Students who graduated on schedule were grittier, and grit was a more powerful predictor of graduation than how much students cared about school, how conscientious they were about their studies, and even how safe they felt at school. Likewise, in 2 large American samples, I found that grittier adults were more likely to get further in their formal schooling. Adults who'd earned an MBA, PhD, MD, JD, or any other graduate degree were grittier than those who'd only graduated from 4-year colleges, who were in turn grittier than those who'd accumulated some college credits, but no degree. Interestingly, adults who successfully earned degrees from 2-year colleges scored slightly higher than graduates of 4-year colleges. This puzzled me at first, but I soon learned that the dropout rates at community colleges can be as high as 80%. Those who defy the odds are especially gritty. In parallel, I started a partnership with the Army Special Operations Forces, better known as the Green Berets. These are among the Army's best trained soldiers, assigned some of the toughest and most dangerous missions. Training for the Green Berets is a grueling, multi-stage affair. The stage I studied comes after 9 weeks of boot camp, 4 weeks of infantry training, 3 weeks of airborne school, and 4 weeks of a preparation course focused on land navigation. All these preliminary training experiences are very, very hard, and at every stage there are men who don't make it through. But the Special Forces selection course is even harder. In the words of its commanding general, James Parker, this is where we decide who will and who will not enter the final stages of Green Beret training. The selection course makes Beast Barracks look like summer vacation. Starting before dawn, trainees go full throttle until 9 in the evening. In addition to daytime and nighttime navigation exercises, there are 4 and 6 mile runs and marches, sometimes under a 65-pound load, and attempts at an obstacle course informally known as Nasty Nick, which includes crawling through water under barbed wire, walking on elevated logs, negotiating cargo nets, and swinging from horizontal ladders. Just getting to the selection course is an accomplishment, but even so, 42% of the candidates I studied voluntarily withdrew before it was over. What distinguished the men who made it through was their grit. What else other than grit predicts success in the military, in education, and in business? In sales, I found that prior experience helps. Novices are less likely to keep their jobs than those with experience. In the Chicago public school system, a supportive teacher made it more likely that students would graduate. And for aspiring Green Berets, baseline physical fitness at the start of training is essential. But in each of these domains, when you compare people matched on these characteristics, grit still predicts success. Regardless of specific attributes and advantages that help someone succeed in each of these diverse domains of challenge, grit matters in all of them.